A GPU is the soul of a gaming PC. Take it away, and gaming becomes a whole lot harder, unless you have an insanely powerful integrated graphics chip. But what if all you have are old, forgotten graphics cards? These are the 5 cheapest GPUs I've ever bought on eBay. Today, we're going to find out whether these ancient budget cards can still play games, and if any of them can handle 4K gaming. Let's find out. My budget is extremely limited, so I set myself one rule. Every GPU has to cost less than $15. So let's jump onto eBay and see what kind of graphics cards I can actually buy for under 15 bucks. And of course, I went straight back to eBay, the land of unbelievably cheap hardware. Alright, let's see what happens when I search for one simple keyword, GPU. Then I lowered the price limit to just $15 and oh my god! Look at this thing, $12. Sounds amazing, right? Until you notice it's packing just 512 megabytes of DDR3 memory. Yeah, this thing isn't pushing a 4K signal anytime soon. The funny thing is, there are actually plenty of cheap GPUs on eBay, but my challenge is a little more complicated. I need a card that satisfies 2 conditions. First, it has to be as cheap as possible, and second, it must be capable of outputting a 4K display, which immediately eliminates a lot of options. So, back to searching. After scrolling for a while, I found a GTX 55 OTI, $15 for the card and another $10 for shipping. Not terrible, but there was one big problem. It doesn't support 4K output, and that's when I suddenly remembered something. A lot of older gaming GPUs actually aren't great for this challenge. What I really need is one of those old workstation graphics cards designed for professional displays. Which brings me to this, the AMD FirePro W2100. I picked one up for just $10, and somehow, if you buy 4 of them, the price drops to only $8 each. I don't think anyone needs 4 FirePro W2100s sitting around the house. So for now, one will do just fine. Alright, we've got our GPU. But before doing anything crazy, I need to make sure it actually works. Because when you're buying ultra-cheap hardware from eBay, there's always a chance you're receiving electronic garbage. At first glance, though, it looks surprisingly good. No major scratches, no broken parts, nothing obvious, and then, oh my god! There's literally someone's hair tangled inside the fan. I have no idea how it got in there, but apparently this card comes with free DNA from the previous owner. Anyway, the next step is making sure it can still output a display signal. And for that, I need a desktop PC, which means I'm about to use the machine I'm currently editing this video on. Yep, I'm going to pair it with a fairly powerful CPU, so the graphics card can perform without being held back by the processor. Alright, moment of truth. Let's see if this thing still works. Oh my god. It displayed an image immediately. That's a very good sign. After checking the specs, I found that it comes with 2 gigabytes of VRAM. Although I had a feeling it was probably DDR3 memory. And yep, exactly as expected. DDR3, not exactly impressive, but this card does have one thing going for it. It's incredibly power efficient. The entire card only consumes around 26 watts, and that's honestly kind of impressive. The other reason I bought it is because even though it's an older GPU, it still supports 4K output. That's thanks to the fact that it's a professional workstation card equipped with DisplayPort 1.2a, which is exactly what I need for this challenge. But before jumping straight into 4K, let's see how it performs at 1080p first. No way. Almost 300 FPS. That's actually way better than I expected. Alright then, let's move on to 4K and see what happens. Oh my god, my FPS dropped all the way down to around 20 frames per second. And on top of that, I was getting some pretty nasty screen tearing. The whole experience felt rough. But then I noticed something. The render distance was still set to the default 32 chunks, which is honestly a ridiculous amount for a GPU like this. So I lowered it all the way down to the minimum, and oh my god, I couldn't believe it. The FPS jumped to almost 60, and under ideal conditions, it even pushed past 70 FPS. Now, compared to 1080p, that's nearly an 80% performance loss. But considering how little this GPU cost, that's actually not bad at all. Alright, let's make things more difficult. Time for shaders. 3 FPS. Yep, 3. The fact that this card can even run shaders at all is kind of impressive. I genuinely thought it would crash before getting this far. So, while the performance is obviously terrible with shaders enabled, at the end of the day, this GPU only cost me $10. And after everything I've seen today, I don't regret spending a single cent on it. Alright, let's move on to the second GPU. I picked this one up for just $13, and on paper, it sounds very similar to the previous card. It also comes with 2 GB of VRAM, and yes, it's DDR3 again. At first glance, the specifications look almost identical. The performance difference between the two cards shouldn't be huge either. This is the Radeon R5 340. So now the question is, which one is actually the better buy? Let's find out. Oh my god, look at this. Someone literally cut the fan cable. Why? Who does that? That's probably one of the dumbest things I've seen while buying used hardware. No wonder it was so cheap. Alright, give me a minute. I'm going to reconnect the wires and see if I can bring this thing back to life. Perfect. It works perfectly. Now let's see how this GPU handles the challenge of 4K resolution. No way. It's still getting around 40 to 50 FPS with the render distance set to the minimum. The GPU is working incredibly hard, pushing close to 100% utilization. Compared to the previous GPU, this one seems a little weaker. The W2100 only needed around 80% utilization, yet it was producing roughly 50 more FPS. One advantage these two cards share is temperature. They're both running surprisingly cool, only around 50 degrees Celsius. Now, when I increase the render distance to 32 chunks, the difference becomes much more obvious. This card delivers lower FPS than the first GPU, hovering around just 17 FPS. Then I switched to shaders, and suddenly everything was reversed. The first GPU only managed around 3 FPS. Meanwhile, this one reached as high as 10 FPS. But the experience was still terrible. If you're planning to use shaders, I'd recommend staying away from both of these cards. So, in the end, both GPUs perform quite similarly. The difference between them really isn't that large. Now it's time for the third GPU. And this is where things start getting a lot more ridiculous, because this one comes from Nvidia, the legendary GT 710, with just 1 GB of DDR3 memory. Now on paper, this card looks worse in almost every way. Compared to the AMD W2100 we just tested, nearly every specification is lower. The W2100 has more VRAM, stronger overall performance, and honestly makes a lot more sense for this challenge. But here's the weird part. For some reason, this GT 710 was still selling for nearly $20. And what's even more confusing, people are actually buying it, which raises a very important question. How bad is this thing really? Well, let's find out. This card only has 1 GB of VRAM, so I wasn't even sure if it could launch Minecraft at all, but then, no way, it actually got into the game. And another thing I immediately noticed, the GPU was working at 99% utilization. Absolutely maxed out. Yet the FPS was mostly hovering around 30 frames per second, even with the graphics settings turned all the way down. That's pretty rough. Although, to be fair, it was raining in-game during the test. And when the weather cleared up, things looked a lot better. Under ideal conditions, the FPS could reach 50, sometimes even 60, which is surprisingly decent for a GPU like this. But the real question is, can it hold up when I increase the render distance? So I raised it to 8 chunks, and surprisingly it was still somewhat playable. The FPS stayed around 20 to 30 most of the time. Then I started wondering, could I squeeze out some extra performance with overclocking? So I increased the clock speed by 300 MHz. And strangely enough, the FPS didn't go up. If anything, it actually seemed a little worse. So I pushed it another 100 MHz, and that's when things went wrong. Out of nowhere, the screen started showing visual artifacts. At that point, it was pretty clear what happened. The VRAM was struggling. By pushing the memory clock too high, the memory chips could no longer process data reliably, causing image corruption and rendering errors on screen. So, if you're planning to overclock your GPU, make sure you understand where the actual bottleneck is, because pushing numbers higher doesn't always mean getting more performance. So, in the end, this card isn't terrible, but it isn't good either, and that's exactly why I wouldn't recommend buying it. Because if a GPU is this weak while still costing that much, there's a much better option out there. For about $10 more, you can get something dramatically faster, and that card is the GTX 750 Ti. This one comes with 2 GB of VRAM. Now sure, 2 gigabytes doesn't sound impressive these days, but when it comes to raw GPU power, it's in a completely different league. The CUDA core count alone is higher than any of the cards we've tested so far, and that's where the real performance comes from. Yes, it costs around $15 more, but it may also be one of the cheapest GPUs capable of outputting 4K while still delivering genuinely usable gaming performance. So now, let's see just how big the difference really is. Oh my god, this is genuinely impressive. 120 FPS. No, that's not a typo. And no, I'm not dreaming. The result completely exceeded my expectations, especially when you consider both the age of this card and how little it costs. Honestly, I don't think you're going to find a better value GPU than this one for budget 4K gaming. The FPS stays above 100 almost all the time. And here's the crazy part. I intentionally increased the render distance from 8 chunks all the way up to 32 chunks. And even then, the GPU was still delivering over 60 FPS. That's seriously impressive for a card this old. But it's not just fast, it's also incredibly power efficient. The whole card is only consuming around 25 watts. Now that's something I definitely wasn't expecting. But what about shaders? Can it handle them smoothly? Oh no, 11 FPS. That's rough, really rough. At this point, the GPU is running flat out at 100% utilization. Power consumption jumps up, temperatures rise, and the card is clearly reaching its limit. So if your goal is to play Minecraft with heavy shaders, this probably isn't the card you're looking for. But if shaders aren't important to you, then this is absolutely a GPU that can handle 4K gaming surprisingly well for the money. So if that last GPU represents the sweet spot between low price and high performance, what about the next one? Because for just $2 more, you can step up to this. $30. That's the price of this card. And this time, we're switching over to Team Red. This is the RX5 52GB. Now on paper, it doesn't look dramatically different from the GTX 750 Ti. The specifications are fairly close. The price is also very similar. So at first glance, you might expect the performance to be nearly the same. But specs don't always tell the whole story. So the real question is, can this RX 550 actually deliver better performance? Or are we just paying extra for a different logo? Let's find out. Launching Minecraft isn't much of a challenge for this card, and right away I was seeing around 80 FPS at an 8-chunk render distance. That's not bad at all, but when you compare it to the GTX 750 Ti, this card really starts to fall behind, and not by a little either. The gap is actually pretty significant. This round clearly goes to Team Green. That said, the overall experience is still perfectly playable. Even when the GPU is pushed close to its limits, the temperatures remain surprisingly low. We're talking about only around 60 degrees Celsius. So what happens when I crank the render distance up to 32 chunks? 25 FPS. Yep, performance drops quite a bit. At this point, the game starts feeling noticeably less responsive. You can see small stutters, occasional delays, and the overall experience becomes a lot less smooth. But if you're the type of person who doesn't obsess over FPS numbers, it's still playable, and I think this proves something important. When you're buying GPUs on eBay, price alone doesn't tell the whole story. You need to understand the hardware specifications and what you're actually getting for your money. Because a newer card isn't always the better card. And after making this video, one thing became very clear to me. Old hardware isn't nearly as useless as people think. You can still play games at 4K on surprisingly old GPUs. You just need to choose the right one.